The other thing you want to talk about, Kerry, was what was going on with Laurence Fox last week and the issue of freedom of speech. So let's just, for those who aren't aware, Laurence Fox, of course, is an actor. He's a so-called political activist. He was detained last week on suspicion of conspiring to commit criminal damage to the ULEZ cameras, which have gone up in London. He was also sacked by GB News at the same time. What are your thoughts about this, Kerry?
Well, both of the things that he's come under scrutiny for, shall we say, the things that he's alleged to have done and you know, broken laws or whatever, both of those things are things that would have been known to him. So I suppose my problem isn't so much that people are speaking out about free speech, because I'm all for it. It's more the way and the method and the conditions around it, right? The kind of context. And so if you work for a major news organization and that news organization is under the auspices of Ofcom, and you know that they're watching, and you know that there's been trouble in the past, very, very recent past, and you know that some of your colleagues have also come under fire for various different reasons, and there's a whole lot going on, right? At that moment that they bring him in and say, hey, no more. He knows this. So it can't be anything other than acceptance of what he's done, right? And then it becomes a kind of show. So we saw the Laurence Fox show from his living room where the police were in there and he was smoking a cigar, which was clearly, you know, shall I smoke a cigarette or shall I smoke a cigar? Oh, no, the cops are here. I'm going to do a live, so I think I'll blaze out a stogie.
Right.
Right. I mean,
it felt like a performance to you.
Right. It felt performative. And I suppose there's part of it that you could say, well, he's an actor, so everything he does probably comes off as being performative. Sure. But this is a bit different. And it's very odd because he doesn't really talk about what he's done. He just sort of sticks up for it under the guise of free speech, you know, the things that he said about this lady. I don't agree with it. I absolutely protect his right to say stuff, but it's the context that gets me, because he's not just saying stuff and then getting done for it. He's saying stuff whilst working for a news organization that is under
I take your point.
Ofcom scrutiny. He knows this. He knows what he says will be inflammatory.
So it's like, whether deliberate or not, do you think his actions are working against freedom fighters? And
yes.
In what respect?
Most definitely, because what happens is when you have these sort of self-styled heroes of a movement, and let's face it, that's kind of what he is. He wants to rise to the top of the thing. Which he ain't leading
me nowhere. But I take your point.
And it starts to dilute what people are about, because the problem with having any sort of movement is that we all have different perceptions. We all have a different approach to a lot of this. And then when someone comes out and they do something brash, which maybe none of us would have done, under the guise of, well, I'm part of the freedom movement, I stand up for freedom of speech, I'm not going to stop talking what I'm talking. It's like, well, that's fine. But then you've also got to recognize that there will be a consequence for the things that you do whilst you're in this environment. And maybe he accepted that. I mean, I think that the whole idea around the free speech thing, I think he perhaps should have apologized, you know, for saying what he said about this lady. Whether he meant it or not, I don't think it matters. I think they came down a bit harsh on that. I think that's really...
I don't believe that's the reason.
No,
I don't believe that's the reason. I think that was just really convenient. It was really convenient to use that to take Dan Wootton off air when really they wanted to be able to investigate him anyway. This is just me theorizing. It doesn't mean that I know this from behind the scenes. This is just me theorizing. So I don't actually believe that. I think that was just very useful, wasn't it, really, at that time?
Yeah, I think it was. And the ULEZ thing, I mean, I think, you know, you should know, any adult knows, if you go on TV and you say you should go and tear down these cameras, then probably that's
exactly.
There's ways and means